Do that walk down the stairs one more time for me. Hold on, start from that middle. Yeah, start from that middle. There you go. When I say action, you walk down. Hands, action. You just walk out, yeah.
And I be dead for all, I be shorty under 6 feet. Bitches want my heart.
Hey, GA.
Yes, sir.
How much you paid for that heater at Walmart?
Why, you need it?
Hell yeah. What you need it for? I want it.
On May 20th, 2021, a 26-year-old woman walked into Mount Carmel East Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, bleeding from a gunshot wound. Within minutes, she was pronounced dead. Her name was Courtney Bruce, known in the local music scene as Boog the Bandit. Just hours earlier, she had been ambushed by a group of armed men on a quiet street near East Livingston Avenue. What began as a routine meeting ended in fatal violence. Police quickly determined this was not a random crime. Surveillance footage, cell phone data, and eyewitness testimony began to piece together the events. Investigators learned that Bruce was allegedly lured to the location by someone she knew. That individual would later be identified as 22-year-old Kyson Murphy, who was arrested and charged with aggravated murder and robbery. He wasn't alone. 2 other suspects, including a 17-year-old named Sincere McIntyre, were also charged. One by one, those involved admitted their roles, but key details remained obscured. Why was Bruce targeted? Was it personal, or was she chosen for what she carried? Money, jewelry, status? Did her growing reputation as a rapper make her a target? Or was this a setup based on a long-standing grudge? The evidence pointed to a planned robbery, but a full motive was never officially confirmed. If you're captivated by real crime stories that peel back the layers of truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support means a world to us as we uncover real cases, raise awareness, and give a voice to the voiceless. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now, let's dive in.
A young woman was shot last night. This one happened near East Livingston Avenue and Beechwood Road on Dork Place.
Police said Boog the Bandit, whose real name is Courtney Bruce, walked into the hospital around 6:10 p.m. with gunshot wounds.
For her to get pistol whipped me and in the chest and multiple times, I heard, that didn't call for it. Even though she put up a fight.
I want to give a huge shout out to all my followers, all my supporters, anybody that has streamed Hot Topic, Hardaway, or Risky. I love you and thank you. Shout out to my team, Music the Label. Shout out to all my producers, my engineers, everybody that's been putting in work. We had 500,000 views on YouTube. 3 videos in, all 3 videos got 100K and up. And I'm finna drop again. When that heat ain't on, put that Montclair on. What they talking about?
Courtney Nicole Bruce, professionally known as Boog the Bandit, was a 26-year-old emerging rap artist from Columbus, Ohio. Born and raised in the city, Bruce spent her formative years in the local community, where she would later develop and launch her musical career. She became publicly recognized under the stage name Boog the Bandit, and by the time of her death in 2021, she was considered a notable rising figure in the Midwest hip-hop scene. Bruce's entry into music occurred gradually, beginning with performances at local showcases and uploading music through independent streaming platforms. Her tracks began to gain online traction and build her a modest yet growing fan base. Among her most known songs were Hardaway, Risky, Hot Topic, and Lonely. These songs earned her attention not just from local fans, but also from broader regional listeners, marking her as an artist to watch. Her public image was carefully cultivated through her online activity. She maintained an active social media presence, frequently posting snippets of unreleased music, behind-the-scenes footage, and day-in-the-life content for her followers. She appeared focused on expanding her brand and frequently engaged with fans. Her follower count steadily increased across platforms such as Instagram, YouTube, and SoundCloud, all of which she used to promote her content and appearances. Prior to her death, there were indications that Bruce was preparing for a breakout moment in her career. Reports circulated that she was in the early stages of collaborating with nationally recognized artists, including a rumored feature with Ohio native Trippie Redd. While no official collaboration was publicly released, the connection added credibility to her industry momentum and future trajectory. Bruce was reported to have connections within various social and entrepreneurial circles in Columbus. Her business dealings included merchandise drops and independent promotions, which she used to support her brand. She also attended networking events and occasionally performed at private functions. Although no criminal affiliations were confirmed, there was speculation about her associations based on the content of her lyrics, personal relationships, and rumored links to certain individuals in the local rap and nightlife scenes. Despite those rumors, Bruce maintained a reputation as a determined and focused artist. Within the Columbus community, she was seen as a respected creative talent who was representing her city and attempting to scale her platform. Local artists, producers, and fans describe her as someone with clear ambition and industry potential. She was frequently invited to community events, music showcases, and was featured in several digital interviews, further positioning her as a rising figure in regional music. In the days leading up to May 20th, 2021, Courtney Nicole Bruce, professionally known as Boog the Bandit, continued to operate in the local rap circuit of Columbus, Ohio. Her last known public appearances occurred earlier that week, when she was seen visiting a local studio in East Columbus. According to social media activity and digital location metadata, Bruce was also engaged in messaging via platforms like Instagram and text, most notably with Kyson Murphy, who would later be arrested in connection to her death. While no direct records of those conversations have been released to the public, law enforcement would later state that communication between Bruce and Murphy occurred in the hours preceding the incident, forming a key part of the police's timeline reconstruction. Evidence from call logs and digital messages suggests Bruce was lured to the area under false pretenses, potentially related to either a music opportunity or financial exchange. Her decision to meet with Murphy, who she may have known socially or professionally, appears to have been prearranged, not coincidental. This lends weight to law enforcement's theory that the setup was calculated and intentional. On the evening of May 20th, Bruce was accompanied by an unidentified male companion, later confirmed to be present during the time of the shooting. This individual was neither injured nor publicly named, but served as a crucial witness during the investigation. It is believed that the two traveled together to a pre-selected location in East Columbus, possibly with the assumption of engaging in a transaction or discussion related to music, merchandise, or personal matters. In terms of her personal and professional activities during that period, Bruce was reportedly finalizing promotional content and preparing for summer releases. Her bank records, text history, and GPS data, later used in court, suggest a routine, with no indicators that she anticipated foul play. The fatal incident occurred on May 20th, 2021, at approximately 6:11 p.m. The location was near the intersection of East Livingston Avenue and Beechwood Road, an area in East Columbus with mixed-use zoning. It consists primarily of residential homes, scattered businesses, and open-access roads, conditions that allow for relatively unmonitored encounters and quick getaways. The area, while not remote, does not have dense traffic or consistent law enforcement visibility. Bruce and her companion had arrived in a vehicle, presumably to meet with Kyson Murphy. As they waited in or near the vehicle, multiple armed suspects approached. Based on surveillance footage and witness testimony, the ambush was immediate and confrontational. 3 to 4 individuals, all armed, converged on the vehicle, initiating a robbery. During the confrontation, demands were issued, likely for valuables, cash, or possibly Bruce's phone and other possessions. During this confrontation, Bruce was physically assaulted, specifically pistol whipped by one of the suspects. The blunt force trauma was consistent with injuries later reported in the medical examiner's findings. The situation escalated when one of the suspects discharged a firearm, striking Bruce with a single gunshot. The bullet reportedly struck her in the upper body, though the precise entry point has not been publicly confirmed. The nature of the wound was critical and life-threatening. Following the shooting, the suspects fled the scene. Bruce's companion was not harmed and helped her into the vehicle. Despite her condition, Bruce was still conscious at that point. She and the witness drove themselves approximately 2.5 miles to Mount Carmel East Hospital, arriving within minutes of the shooting. Upon arrival, hospital staff initiated trauma protocols. Bruce was taken into emergency care. However, the extent of her internal injuries and blood loss were too severe. Despite efforts by medical personnel, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The official time of death was recorded within the same hour as the shooting. A preliminary autopsy confirmed the cause of death as a gunshot wound inflicted at close range. Secondary injuries included contusions to the face and head consistent with blunt force trauma. On the evening of May 20th, 2021, Columbus police received multiple 911 calls reporting a shooting at the intersection of East Livingston Avenue and Beechwood Road. Callers reported hearing gunfire and witnessing a disturbance involving a woman and at least one armed male subject. Some callers mentioned a vehicle speeding away from the location shortly after the shots were fired. Others described a woman appearing injured and attempting to walk away from the scene. Emergency medical services and Columbus Police Department units were dispatched within minutes. Upon arrival, officers found no victim at the exact location, but identified signs of a violent encounter. Blood was present on the pavement, and nearby residents provided preliminary witness accounts. According to one eyewitness, a female victim had been assaulted and shot before fleeing the area in a separate vehicle. Shortly thereafter, Mount Carmel East Hospital received a critically wounded female, later confirmed to be Courtney Bruce, transported privately and not by EMS. Hospital staff began emergency intervention, but Bruce succumbed to her injuries within a short time. The cause of death was identified as a single gunshot wound to the chest. Columbus police were notified by the hospital and responded immediately to begin coordination between hospital security and active crime scene investigators. The medical examiner was called to examine the body for forensic and ballistic evidence. The attending officer collected early details from hospital staff, including the time of arrival, condition of the body, and comments made by the male who brought Bruce to the hospital. Family notification was conducted within hours, as Bruce's identity was confirmed by ID and facial recognition by hospital staff and responding officers. Her next of kin were informed at their residence, and her family was advised not to speak publicly until formal statements were issued. Within 12 hours of the incident, Columbus police issued a press release confirming the death of 26-year-old Courtney Nicole Bruce, known locally as Boog the Bandit. The statement noted she was killed during an apparent armed robbery and emphasized that the investigation was active and ongoing. It also requested community tips, video evidence, and contact with anyone who had interacted with Bruce that day. The crime scene was secured overnight with the help of K-9 units and forensic teams. A radius was established to search for shell casings, discarded weapons, and personal items. Detectives canvassed nearby homes and businesses to obtain security footage, and interviews were conducted with those who had reported the incident or witnessed it. At this stage, law enforcement formally initiated the suspect identification phase, led by the homicide unit of the Columbus Police Department. The investigation into Bruce's killing began with the collection of all surveillance footage from properties within 100 yards of the shooting. Video obtained from a business across the street showed Bruce and a male companion in a vehicle parked near the intersection. Shortly after their arrival, a second vehicle approached. At least two individuals exited the vehicle, and a physical altercation occurred. A flash consistent with gunfire was visible on footage, followed by rapid movement and one individual fleeing. Detectives secured cell phone records from Bruce's device under emergency authorization. Examination of text messages and call logs indicated contact with a male later identified as Kyson Murphy, including messages suggesting a meetup that night. Digital forensics also retrieved location pings placing Murphy in the vicinity of the incident. The surviving male companion was questioned. He admitted that Bruce had planned to meet an individual who claimed to have interest in music collaboration and potentially purchasing equipment. He confirmed that they were approached by armed men, that Bruce was pistol whipped, and that she was shot while attempting to retreat. This witness testimony, combined with data from Bruce's phone, led investigators to Kyson Murphy, a 22-year-old Columbus resident with a minor criminal record. Background checks revealed past associations with robbery suspects and gang-affiliated individuals. Multiple reports linked Murphy to weapons charges, although none had resulted in convictions. Ballistic evidence collected at the scene included a 9mm shell casing, consistent with the wound trajectory described in the autopsy. Bruce's body showed physical trauma to the head and face consistent with being struck by a blunt metal object, matching the companion's statement about her being pistol-whipped. Partial fingerprints lifted from Bruce's car and nearby surfaces were analyzed for further leads. Police arrested Murphy at his residence after issuing a warrant for his involvement in Bruce's death. A search at his home uncovered a 9mm handgun and a hoodie matching the one seen in surveillance footage. Murphy was charged with aggravated murder, Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.01, aggravated robbery, Ohio Revised Code Section 2911.01, felony assault, Ohio Revised Code Section 2903.11. During interrogation, Murphy initially denied involvement but later admitted to orchestrating the robbery, claiming Bruce was known to carry cash. He identified 2 other individuals involved but did not provide their full names. Investigators determined that Murphy had planned the encounter under false pretenses and led the ambush. His admission was used to obtain further warrants. McIntyre was arrested after further investigation of cell phone activity, location tracking, and cross-referencing Murphy's statements. He was identified as one of the masked assailants at the scene and was allegedly the person who fired the weapon. McIntyre was charged with murder, aggravated robbery, use of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Due to the severity of the charges and evidence of intentional violence, McIntyre was transferred to adult court following a juvenile certification hearing. A third individual, whose identity was withheld during early reporting due to age and cooperation status, was later arrested. This suspect admitted to being present and acting as a lookout. Role: accomplice of robbery and secondary witness to the shooting. Confession: partial admission of guilt, including knowledge of planned robbery. Sentenced: August 2024, under plea agreement. He received a reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation with the prosecution and testifying against the other defendants. Murphy's preliminary hearing was held in July 2021. Based on witness statements, forensic evidence, and his own partial confession, a grand jury indicted him on all charges. He remained in custody without bond pending trial. McIntyre underwent hearings to determine his eligibility for juvenile court. Due to the violent nature of the charges, he was deemed fit to be tried as an adult. He was formally indicted and entered a plea of not guilty. The third suspect cooperated with investigators early in the process and accepted a plea agreement. He was later sentenced for robbery charges, avoiding murder charges. Established premeditated robbery organized by Murphy. Show that Bruce was lured intentionally. Use forensic and digital evidence to prove involvement of all suspects. Highlight cell phone records and GPS data as location evidence. Murphy's legal team attempted to downplay intent to kill, citing robbery only. McIntyre's counsel argued diminished capacity and lack of leadership role. Third suspect's cooperation allowed for reduced sentence. Phone logs and GPS confirmed Murphy's contact with Bruce and presence near the scene. Surveillance footage showed the timeline of events and vehicle arrivals. Autopsy report confirmed cause of death and timing consistent with witness accounts. Medical examiners report detailed injuries from both gunfire and blunt force trauma. Eyewitness testimony from Bruce's male companion described the attack in detail. Recovered firearm from Murphy's home matched the casing found at the scene. Kyson Murphy entered a guilty plea in 2023 to avoid a full trial. His sentencing was postponed to allow cooperation with ongoing cases. He remains incarcerated. Sincere McIntyre's pretrial motions were still active as of mid-2024. No sentencing had occurred yet. A trial date was pending, delayed by forensic processing and defense motions. Third suspect was sentenced in August 2024 for his role in the robbery. The exact sentence was not disclosed, but involved reduced prison time due to cooperation. In the days following the fatal shooting of Courtney Boog the Bandit Bruce, local media sources were the first to report on the incident. Outlets based in Columbus, Ohio, published preliminary information provided by police and hospital officials. Reports noted that Bruce had been transported to Mount Carmel East Hospital with a gunshot wound, and despite efforts to save her, she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Initial news stories focus on the crime itself, emphasizing the location, the method of attack, and law enforcement's early investigation. These reports included brief summaries of Bruce's status as a rapper and her emerging popularity in the Columbus hip-hop scene. Media descriptions identified her as an aspiring artist or a local celebrity, highlighting her recent music releases and growing fan base. Beyond the standard reporting from city news affiliates, hip-hop blogs and independent media channels began publishing short write-ups of Bruce's music career and the suspicious nature of her death. Platforms such as The Source, Revolt, and other rap-centric websites provided limited background on her career, but generally relied on public records and statements made by Columbus police. These reports often reused phrasing from law enforcement communications, which described the shooting as a result of an attempted robbery, and suggested the victim was targeted in a setup. Statements from law enforcement followed standard protocol. Police representatives confirmed the time and location of the incident and indicated that detectives were actively investigating the case. Early press releases did not name suspects or speculate on motive, instead encouraging the public to submit tips and promising further updates as the investigation progressed. As the investigation unfolded and suspects were named and arrested, law enforcement released additional statements. In those, officials confirmed that multiple individuals had been involved in a robbery that led to Bruce's death. Arrests and charges, including aggravated murder and aggravated robbery, were publicized, but police refrained from making public statements on Bruce's personal background or potential affiliations. The official narrative remained centered on the robbery and the use of deadly force during the commission of that crime. On social media, the reaction to Bruce's death was immediate. Her fans, fellow artists, and members of the Columbus community shared posts expressing disbelief and frustration. Her music was reposted across platforms, including Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, often accompanied by messages calling for justice. Columbus area musicians and up-and-coming artists referenced Bruce's work and described her death as a loss to the scene. Other independent creators used the moment to call attention to safety risks that women face in male-dominated industries, though these conversations remained largely contained to niche platforms and followers familiar with Bruce's work. Influencers and public figures with connections to Ohio or the underground rap scene amplified awareness of the case for a short time. Despite these efforts, the incident did not receive sustained national coverage. The case failed to trend widely, and no major broadcast networks provided in-depth features on Bruce or the circumstances of her death. Crime-focused outlets, including independent YouTube channels and investigative bloggers, began analyzing the case several months later. Their findings generally pointed to the motive as financially driven. A common theory presented by these analysts was that Bruce had been lured to the location where she was attacked under the assumption of a legitimate meeting or transaction. Some reports implied that the attackers may have been aware she was carrying valuables, possibly cash or jewelry. This theory stemmed from suspect confessions and digital communications recovered during the investigation. Multiple blogs and content creators suggested that Bruce's growing visibility may have made her a target. Jealousy, financial desperation, or unresolved disputes were listed as possible underlying motives, though no verified report supported these claims beyond speculation. Analysts also noted the disparity in coverage between Bruce's case and those of other public figures with similar